The question is how to cultivate intimacy in your life. Well, there are 5 quick things that I can share. The first is the practice of vulnerability. The second is that of being present. Third is to listen deeply. The fourth is to embrace silence. And fifth one is to see the divine in another. Namaskar and hello. Welcome to episode 3 of Love Decoded, season 1 of the podcast Inspired Living with Vishwas. In today's session, we would talk about what do we mean by intimacy, how it could be or how it could become the doorway to the soul. Welcome back to Love Decoded. In the last 2 episodes, we explored the essence of love and we distinguished it from lust. Today, we embark on a journey into one of love's most profound dimensions, intimacy. What is intimacy? Is it simply physical closeness, or is there a deeper spiritual dimension to it? Can intimacy become a pathway to the soul, both yours and another's? In this episode, we will uncover the mystical and transformative power of intimacy through ancient philosophies, tantric teachings, and personal stories. Let's begin by understanding what intimacy truly means. The word intimacy comes from the Latin intimus, meaning innermost. Intimacy is not just about physical closeness. It is about allowing another person to see your innermost self, your fears, your dreams, your vulnerability. In Sanskrit, intimacy is often described as antaranga, which means inner connection. The ancient sages saw intimacy as a sacred doorway, a path to knowing oneself through another. The Upanishads state, Yaha pashyati, saha pashyati, which means the ones who sees truly sees. True intimacy requires seeing and being seen, not just the body but the soul. Let me share a story from tantric teachings. There was once a seeker who went to a tantric master and asked, "How can I find my soul?" The master smiled and said, "Look into the eyes of someone you love. The seeker was confused. He thought he needed meditation or rituals. But the master explained, when you look deeply into another's eyes with love and openness, you see yourself reflected back. Their soul becomes a mirror for your own. This story reveals a profound truth. Intimacy is not just about knowing another person. It is about knowing yourself through them. Osho often spoke about intimacy as a courageous act. He said, intimacy means exposing yourself to someone. It is a risk because it means showing your vulnerabilities, your flaws, your fears. But without intimacy, love cannot grow. Many of us fear intimacy because it requires us to drop our masks. We fear being rejected or judged. But Osho reminds us that true intimacy is not about perfection. It is about authenticity. He often used the metaphor of a flower. Just as a flower doesn't hide its fragrance or its petals, intimacy means blooming fully in front of another person. Let me recap this again. He often used the metaphor of a flower. Just as a flower doesn't hide its fragrance or its petals, intimacy means blooming fully in front of another person. Have you ever held back from being fully yourself in a relationship? What would it feel like to let go of that fear and allow yourself to be seen as you truly are? Tantra teaches that intimacy is not something we do. It is something we become. It begins with presence. One of the most beautiful tantric practice is eye gazing. This practice involves sitting face to face with your partner and gazing into each other's eyes without speaking. At first, it feels uncomfortable. But as the moments pass, barriers dissolve. You begin to see beyond the physical and touch the essence of the other's soul. Another tantric teaching emphasizes the power of breath. When two people synchronize their breathing, they create a shared rhythm, a sacred harmony. In Tantra, this is called pranayama bandha or pranayam bandha or the bond of breath. These practices remind us that intimacy is not about achieving something. It is about being fully present with another moment by moment. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a metaphor that beautifully captures the essence of intimacy. A monk approached Buddha and asked, Master, how can I connect deeply with others? The Buddha replied, Bring me an empty cup. The monk brought the cup, and the Buddha said, To connect deeply, you must first empty yourself of judgments, expectations, and fears. Only then can you truly receive another. Intimacy requires an empty cup, a heart free of preconceptions, ready to hold the fullness of another person's being. How often do we approach relationship with a full cup, overflowing with our own needs, assumptions, and desires? What would it mean to empty ourselves and simply receive? To fully understand intimacy, we must explore its three dimensions, which are physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, and spiritual intimacy. Physical intimacy, this is the connection of the body. It includes touch, closeness, and sensuality. But physical intimacy without emotional or spiritual depth can feel hollow. The second dimension is emotional intimacy. This is the connection of the heart. It involves sharing your feelings, fears, and dreams. Emotional intimacy creates trust and a sense of safety. The third dimension is that of spiritual intimacy. This is the connection of the soul. It goes beyond words and actions. It is the silent recognition of the divine in another. When these three dimensions align, intimacy becomes a doorway to the sacred. The question is how to cultivate intimacy in your life. Well, there are 5 quick things that I can share. The first is the practice of vulnerability. The second is that of being present. Third is to listen deeply. The fourth is to embrace silence. And fifth one is to see the divine in another. Let's go each of these 5 one by one. Practice vulnerability. You can start by sharing something personal with someone you trust. Vulnerability builds bridges. It's difficult to do, but it's something that you ought to practice. The second practice to inculcate intimacy is being present or be present. Put away distractions and give your full attention to the person in front of you. Presence is the foundation of intimacy. The third practice is that of listening deeply. Listen not just to words, but to the feelings behind them. Listening is an act of love. The fourth practice is to embrace silence. Sometimes intimacy doesn't require words. Sitting silently with someone can create a deeper bond than any conversation. Difficult to do, but I would appeal you to do it. It's beautiful. The fifth practice is to see or seeing the divine in the other. In Tantra, this is called darshan, the act of seeing. Look at your loved ones as if you are seeing a reflection of the divine in him or her. As we close today's episode, I invite you to reflect. What does intimacy mean to you? Have you allowed yourself to be truly seen by someone? This week, try one of the practices we discussed. Perhaps eye gazing, or simply being fully present with someone you love. Notice how it transforms your connection. In our next episode, we will explore the sacred dance of Shiva and Shakti, the ultimate symbol of divine intimacy. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, may intimacy lead you closer to your soul. Hey, but before we say goodbye for now, until we meet next time, just a simple reminder. If you would like to grab a written text of my philosophy about love, then I would encourage you to pick up a copy of my recently published book, Love Transcended, where love evolves into consciousness. It's available on Google Books, Amazon, and other online platforms across the globe. Grab your copy and immerse into the teachings of evolved sage Advait when he converses with Ishan and Elena, who felt that they have lost love for themselves. Come and pick up a copy of Love Transcended, where love evolves into consciousness. Have a great day.